You're standing around a fire. It's 50,000 BC. The sun just dropped. There's no TV, no phone, no emails waiting for you. Just you, the flames, and a thick cloud of smoke hitting you directly in the face. And at some point, one of your ancestors looked at that smoke and thought, wait, what if I did that on purpose? This is the story of how humans first started smoking. And I don't mean cigarettes. I don't mean the guy outside your office you always end up talking to for way too long. I mean the very first time a human being intentionally inhaled something burning. Because here's what nobody talks about. Smoking doesn't start with tobacco. It doesn't start with trade routes or colonial history or any of that. The urge to inhale smoke might be baked into us at a level so deep it predates civilization entirely. And the evidence? Genuinely wild. Let's get into it. Before you can smoke anything, you need fire. And fire has been part of our story for a long time. The oldest confirmed evidence of controlled fire dates back roughly 1 million years at a site called Wonderwerk Cave in South Africa. Archaeologists found burnt bone and plant ash, not from a wildfire, from a sustained, deliberate fire built inside a cave. Here's the thing. 1 million years ago, we weren't even Homo sapiens yet. That was Homo erectus, our earlier cousin. Smaller brain, heavier brow, and absolutely zero interest in being told what to do with either. But they sat around fires just like we do. They cooked, they stayed warm, they huddled in the dark, and every single day they breathed smoke. It was unavoidable. It was basically prehistoric air quality, and nobody had an app to check it. Now here's where it gets interesting. Some of that smoke wasn't just regular wood smoke. When you burn organic matter, you don't just get CO2. You get a whole cocktail of compounds. And some plants, when they burn, release psychoactive chemicals that interact with the human nervous system in ways that are, let's say, noticeable. In other words, some of our ancestors were absolutely getting high around the campfire by accident, and they had no idea why they suddenly felt amazing. This isn't some fringe theory. Researchers have suggested for decades that early humans living in forested areas were regularly exposed to smoke from psychoactive plants, cannabis, wild tobacco species, various entheogens that grow naturally across Africa, Asia, and Europe. And the human brain? It has receptors that respond to cannabinoids. These didn't evolve because of cannabis. They're part of our endocannabinoid system, which regulates mood, memory, appetite. But when early humans first inhaled smoke from a burning cannabis plant, their brain didn't freak out. Their brain said, "Oh hey, I've been waiting for you." That first accidental hit of psychoactive smoke around a prehistoric campfire might be the true origin of smoking. Not a decision, not a plan, just a very pleasant accident, repeated enough times that someone eventually thought to recreate it on purpose. Think about that for a second. The entire global tobacco industry, centuries of ritual, trade, addiction, all of it, might have started because a tired hunter sat downwind of the wrong bush and had a really unexpectedly great evening. History is sometimes beautiful in the most absurd ways. Now, let's be careful here, because ancient humans accidentally got high and ancient humans intentionally smoked are two very different claims. The oldest direct evidence of intentional cannabis use, burned seeds found in a context suggesting deliberate inhalation, comes from a burial site in Central Asia's Pamir Mountains, dating to around 500 BC. Excavators found superheated stones and cannabis residue with unusually high THC content. Not wild cannabis used for rope, the good stuff, in a ritual burial. That's 2,500 years ago. But here's the question that should be nagging at you. Does no older evidence mean it didn't happen earlier? Or does it mean we just haven't found it yet? Because organic material almost never survives thousands of years underground. We find stone tools from 3 million years ago because stone doesn't rot. But a wooden pipe packed with dried herbs? Gone in a few centuries. A leather pouch of cannabis? Dissolved back into the earth long before any archaeologist ever showed up. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Not even close. There's also the Herodotus situation. Herodotus, the ancient Greek historian, described a nomadic people called the Scythians who built small enclosed tents, heated stones until they glowed, threw hemp onto those stones, then sat inside inhaling the smoke. And as he wrote, howling with pleasure. Historians assumed he was exaggerating. Then, archaeologists dug up Scythian burial mounds and found, you guessed it, bronze braziers, heated stones, hemp residue. Exactly what he described. The man wasn't embellishing, he was actually underselling it. Tobacco is native to the Americas. That means it was completely unknown to Europe, Asia, and Africa until 1492. When Columbus landed in the Caribbean, he wrote in his journal about seeing people walking around with small glowing sticks, inhaling smoke from burning leaves, and blowing it back out through their nose and mouth. His crew was confused. His crew also, within weeks, tried it themselves, because of course they did. But tobacco use in the Americas is way older than 1492. Archaeological evidence puts it at least 3,500 years back. Some researchers think it could go back 10,000 years or more. And here's what people miss. In ancient America, tobacco was not recreational, not primarily. It was sacred, used in healing rituals, in spiritual ceremonies, in binding agreements between tribes. A shaman smoking wasn't on a break. He was opening a channel between the living and the dead. The smoke was a messenger, carrying prayers up and bringing visions back down. That's why tobacco was so controlled, so disciplined for thousands of years. When something is sacred, you treat it carefully. You don't chain smoke it while watching Netflix. That idea of tobacco as a casual, everyday habit, that's almost entirely a European invention. A very recent, very profitable, very destructive one. Here's something that'll stick with you. Across virtually every human culture ever documented, people have sought ways to alter their consciousness. Fermented drinks, psychedelic mushrooms, smoke, chewed leaves, swallowed seeds. Every culture, every continent, every era. A psychopharmacologist named Ronald Siegel proposed in the 1980s that the pursuit of altered states is basically a fourth biological drive, sitting right alongside hunger, thirst, and sex. And it's not just humans. Elephants deliberately seek out fermented fruit. Reindeer in Siberia eat amanita mushrooms, then drink the urine of other reindeer who ate them, because the psychoactive compounds pass through intact. Reindeer doing drug recycling in Siberia. Honestly, respect. The point is, if this drive is that deep and that old, early humans were probably seeking out psychoactive smoke long before they had pipes, pottery, or any of the tools we associate with smoking. They learned which smoke made you feel good and which made you feel like you were dying, which, with some plants, is a distinction you only get to figure out once. So when did humans actually start smoking? Honest answer? We don't know exactly, and we probably never will. Physical evidence takes us back about 12,000 years with confidence. In 2019, researchers found a 12,000-year-old hearth in Utah containing concentrated wild tobacco seeds, placed there deliberately, long before pipes or pottery even existed in the region. But the behavior behind smoking, the desire to alter your mind, to share a ritual, to use inhaled smoke as medicine or connection or prayer, that's almost certainly far older than anything we've dug up. It might be as old as fire itself. Here's what we do know. By the time written history begins, in every corner of the world, humans were already finding ways to put smoke into their bodies. The plants changed, the rituals changed, the purposes changed, but the behavior was already ancient by the time anyone thought to write it down. And there's something kind of beautiful about that. For all the technology and medicine and content overload that separates us from our prehistoric ancestors, there are these thin, unbroken threads running through 100,000 years of human experience. Fire, smoke, breath. The oldest humans sat around fires in the dark and breathed smoky air, the same smell you'd catch at a bonfire tonight. Some of them started paying attention to what that smoke was doing to them, and then they started choosing it. And they passed that choice down, generation after generation, until it reached a group of Scythians howling in a tent, and Egyptian doctors prescribing herbs, and a Taino shaman on a Caribbean beach, watching a group of very confused Europeans try tobacco for the first time and cough until their eyes watered. The habit is older than history. It just took us this long to ask where it came from.